simply refers to his sovereign intervention in the affairs of men, bringing about his purpose through his power, presence, and glory. So, for you can see that from this we can see that from Genesis to Revelation until now, God has never been idle. He has been moving. He has been moving and he is moving as we speak. So, so to look at it, this is why I put it like this now. So I said, how does God move? So we'll be looking at the movement of God in the Old Testament, the New Testament, and the movement of God today. Movement of God in the Old Testament, New Testament, and the movement of God today. So it's a story familiar to all of us. To all of us, the first move of God. Please, can we see Genesis chapter 1? And it said, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. And the Spirit was of God was moving over the face of the waters. And God said, let there be light. And there was light. So we could see from it the first move of God was creation, creating the universe, creating the earth, light, everything that is it. So the first move of God was creation from Genesis chapter 1. And if we look along Genesis chapter 1 down, you will see when God created man. That is another move of God. After creating heaven and earth. Can we just read it together so we get there? Genesis 1 1, please. Yeah, let's go. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. The earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the earth. And the Spirit of God was walking over the face of the waters. Then God said, let there be light, and there was light. And God saw the light that it was good, and God divided the light from the darkness. God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. So the evening and the morning were the first day. Then God said, let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters. So God made the firmament and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament. And it was so. And God called the firmament heaven. So the evening and the morning were the second day. Then God said, let the waters under the heavens be gathered together into one place, and let the dry land appear. And it was so. And God called the dry land earth, and gathering together of the God seas. And God said it was good. Then God said, let the earth bring forth grass, the herb that eats seeds, and the fruit that eats fruits, according to its kind, whose seeds insert on the earth. And it was so. And the earth brought forth grass, the herb that eats seeds, according to its kind, and the tree that eats fruit, whose seeds is in itself, according to its kind. And God saw that it was good. So the evening and the morning were the third day. The girl said, let there be light in the firmament of the heavens to divide the day from the night, and let there be signs and seasons and for days and years, and let them for the light in the firmament of heavens to light on the earth. And it was so. God made two great lights, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night. He made the stars also. God set them in the firmament of heavens, and to give them to heavens, and to rule over the days of the nights, and to guide darkness. So let's stop there for now. So from here, we could see that the first move of God was creation and creating it, showing his power, his presence, his glory in creation. So looking from Genesis now, the first move of God was
to create the earth. So, according to the Bible again, the second move of God was to create man. 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 So if you see in Genesis chapter 26, they say, God said, let us make us human beings in our image to be like us. They will reign over the fishes in the sea, the birds in the sky, the livestock, all the wild animals on the earth, and small animals that scurry along the ground. So God created human beings in his own image. In the image of God, he created them male and female. Then God blessed them and said, be fruitful and multiply, feed the earth and govern it, reign over the fish in the sea, the bird in the sky, and all animals that scurry along the ground. Then God looked and said, I have given you every seed bearing plant throughout the earth, and the fruits, and all the fruit trees for your food. So seeing here now, after God created the earth in the first place, the second move was to create man. Then by giving man dominion over earth to keep earth safe and to govern earth, like he said, giving him reign over everything. That was the second move of God from my own perspective. After he created everything, so everything was good, but the earth could not be like that. So he created man. He created man. So he created man. If we could say today, this move of God was to establish a physical realm under his rule where man could live and have relationship with him. Showed his power and created man to have relationship with man. So while doing my study, and I see, okay, another place where God moved was in Genesis, Genesis 6, Genesis chapter 6 to 9. That's the story of Noah. So after the fall of man and the casting out of man from the Garden of Eden, after the fall of man and the casting out of man from the Garden of Eden, you see that man went on to live as God said, and they multiplied and everywhere and this thing. So going for then, God came back and God looked. Let's look at Genesis chapter 6, please. Yeah, let's start from chapter 5. Sorry, verse. Okay, let's go all the way. Let's see. Then the people began to multiply on the earth, and the daughters were born to them. The sons of God saw the beautiful women and took them and wanted them as their wives. The Lord said, my spirit will not put up with human for such a long time, for they are only mortal flesh. In the future, their normal lifespan will be no more than 120 years. In these days, and for some time giant Neph- uh, after giant Nephilites lived on the earth, for whenever the sons of God have intercourse with men, they gave birth to children who became heroes and famous warriors of ancient times. The Lord observed the extent of human wickedness on earth, and he saw that everything they thought or imagined was consistently and totally evil. So the Lord was sorry he had ever made them and put them on earth. It broke his heart. And the Lord said, I will wipe this human race I have created from the face of earth. Yes, I will destroy every living thing, all the people, the large animals, the small animals, that scurry along the ground, and even birds of the sky. I am sorry I ever made them. But Noah found favor with God. This account for Noah and his family. Noah was righteous man, the only blameless person living on earth. The time at that time, and he was in close fellowship with God. So we can see, and after this move of creating the earth and creating man, and the fall of man and moving them out of the government, the Garden of Eden, moving them out of the Garden of Eden, we can see that men continue to live, but men were evil. So God wanted to destroy the earth and everything on man. But because he found favor with Noah, God had to move again for the benefit of man. So he gave Noah an assignment to build the ark. He gave Noah an assignment to build the ark, and to choose two of every living creature and put them inside. And so that move shows the love of God for men and his hate towards sin and his love towards justice as a fair God. So we can see there for that move that God came to judge yet, but because of Noah, didn't destroy everything. We can see his move there to, to demonstrate his justice against sin and his mercy righteousness, towards righteousness. So those, as in that's the first and second move of God when he created the earth, created man. Then the other one is when he destroyed the earth because of the sin to make it new and to keep it righteous, to keep the earth righteous. So after that, we have the other one, the patriarch covenant of God. God wants to establish his nation. That was with Abraham. The other time God moved was to create covenant with men. After his covenant with Noah, when after the covenant, after the flood has come down, that he promised to remember that will not destroy the earth anymore with flood and bless them with seasons, days, and fruits and all that. So the next one now, God called Abraham. God called Abraham in Genesis 12, 2 to 3. He called Abraham and said, I will make you a great nation in all the families of the earth, and you shall be blessed. There we see another move of God, creating covenant with men to establish a nation for himself, to set apart people through whom the Messiah will enter the world since the fall of man, and God is working towards salvation. So that was his covenant with Moses. He called him out of his heart and called him out of his family. Then Abraham, that time later known as Abraham, obeyed and at went at. So after the story, we know that Abraham later got a child, Ishmael and Isaac. So the other move we can see for God in the Old Testament in Genesis is that his covenant with Abraham through Isaac when he told Abraham to offer up Isaac for sacrificing. When he was willing, then he told him he will bring a lamb for him. I will be the lamb. For the rest. And you see Genesis 22:8. And Abraham said to my son, God will provide for himself a lamb for a burnt offering. So the two of them went together. Okay. So Abraham took Genesis chapter 22:6. So Abraham took the wood of burnt offering and laid it on Isaac his son, and he took the fire in his hand and a knife, and two of them went together. But Isaac looked to Abraham his father and said, my father. He said, here I am, my son. Then he said, look, the fire and the wood, but where is the lamb for a burnt offering? And Abraham said, my son, God will provide for himself the lamb for a burnt offering. So the two of them went together. They came to the place of which God had told him, and Abraham built the altar and placed the wood in order. And he burned Isaac his son and hid him on the altar upon the wood. And Abraham stretched out his hand and took the knife to slay his son. But the angel of the Lord called him from heaven and said, Abraham. So he said, here I am. Do not lay your hand on the lad or do anything to him, for now I know that you fear God, since you have not withheld your son, your only son from me. Then Abraham lifted his eyes and looked, and there behind him came a ram in the thicket by his son. So Abraham went and looked at the ram and offered it as a burnt offering. And Abraham called the name of this place, the Lord will provide, as he said to this day, in the month of the Lord it shall be provided. It shall be provided. So from this one, God now called Abraham from the angel. He was now blessed, and told you, you will be blessed and multiply. I will multiply your descendant as the stars of heaven, and the sand which is on the seashore. And your descendants shall possess the gate of their enemies. In your seed, all nations of the earth shall be blessed, because you obeyed my voice. So this scene, here we've seen another move of God towards the creation of his nation through Abraham, because of Abraham's obedience towards him. Because of Abraham obedience towards him. And this will show that this will show God's redemptive move by forming a nation through which he will bless all the earth. It shows his pattern of choosing man, building a family, then creating a nation. See, also creating people for his setting creating people for apart for his purposes, and to demonstrate God's plan towards salvation, which will come through the covenant of relationship with men. And if you go to Exodus, another move of God we saw is that with the people of Egypt, Moses, God delivered Israel, the people of Israel from Egypt. You know that the people of Israel were put into captivity for 400 years, or supposed to be for 400 years, but was more than up to 430 years before they were to move. You could see God moves from there. That God has said, okay, my people have been in slavery for too long. I want to liberate them. If you look at Exodus chapter 3, 7 to 10, and the Lord said, I have surely seen the oppression of my people who are in Egypt, and have heard their cry because of their taskmasters, for I know their sorrows. I have come down to deliver them out of the hand of the Egyptians, and bring them up from that land to a good and large land, to a land flowing with milk and honey, to the place of the Canaanites. If you read through, if you read through Genesis with Abraham, you will see where God promised the land of Canaan to Abraham, that people will be there. And before Abraham moved to Egypt, and what happened. So if you check Abraham's story in the book of Genesis, you'll see that the the place of the Canaanites and the Hittites and the Amorites and the Perizzites and the Hittites and the Jebusites. Now therefore, behold, the cry of the children of Israel has come to me, and I have also seen the oppression which the Egyptians oppressed them. Come now, therefore, I will send you to Pharaoh. You may bring my people, the children of Israel, out of Egypt. So do you see this? Do you see the move of God coming down for his people again through Moses to deliver them from the hands of from the Philistines? So this move established God as a deliverer, took them through the parting of the Red Sea and bringing them into the wilderness. Then during that time in the wilderness, we could see other move of God there by bringing the law at Mount Sinai, when he called Moses to bring the law to govern his people, but to govern his people, the children of Israel. So this move of God can to see that it established God as the law giver, as the law giver. So in this book of Exodus, you see that God brought out the children of Israel from Egypt, took them through the wilderness, gave them law, and brought them to the land of Jericho. I brought them to the promised land. Brought them to the promised land by giving them a law and the power. See God's dominion and God's movement through man again. As we're looking at how does God move, we are looking at the Yeah, we are looking at the Old Testament. Some major point God moved for men. So if you look at Exodus 40, God dwelling on the tabernacle, then God presence being with them. Everybody now, okay, have a place to go and worship and meet God. That was the God coming in the tabernacle and temple. So if you Exodus chapter 40 verse 4, the Lord covered the tabernacle of meeting, and the glory of the Lord filled the tabernacle, because God had instructed Israel to build the tabernacle for him. Then later the temple as a place for his presence to dwell among them. So Israel to build for him to dwell among them. So you see God movement here now to dwell. God move here was to dwell, to be with his people, his presence to be around his people. He moved to be around his people through the tabernacle. Say people have where the priests have where to go to talk to God and worship with God from this place. So what I'll be using to end in the move of God in the Old Testament, although there are a lot of moves of God in the Old Testament, these are the ones I just pick at. We can see the prophetic moves from Joshua to Malachi. Malachi, where God revealed himself as King and Judge, prophesying the coming of the Messiah and bringing back the children of Israel to him, bringing the people of children to him. Yeah, and it says in Second Chronicles chapter 7:14, if my people will humble themselves and pray. Please, can you give me the full verse? If my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, I will hear them from heaven and will forgive their sins and heal their land. So through the prophets in the scripture, God was trying to call his people back to him and also prophesying the Messiah. Through the Messiah will come, preparing their hearts to turn back for the coming of the Messiah through his miraculous signs and wonders. So that was another move of God through the prophets from Joshua, to Malachi. You see, he's calling people back to this and prophesying the coming of Christ and telling them prepare their hearts for the coming of the Messiah, which will save them. So now we'll be looking at the move of God in the New Testament. The move of God in the move of God in the New Testament, which was God becoming man. Which was God becoming man. So through the Old Testament, you can see God have been moving through men, using them to for his deliverance, showing his power and his glory and his presence. But now in the New Testament, God now came himself for because of man. He became man so that he can deliver them. Okay. Like if you see in John 1:14, the word became flesh. The word became flesh. That means God came in the form of man to save man. That was another move of God. You see the move of God, it became man. He became man. Became man. From there, he started preaching and teaching about himself. Because God became man, he teach about his love. He showed us his love for us through Jesus Christ. Through Jesus Christ. That was another move of God for us. The manifestation of his kingdom. Preach the gospel and the liberty of the oppressed. True. Because at that time, the Israelites were, were so bent up on the law that the Messiah that was coming was to come and deliver them from the hands of the Romans. From the hands of the Romans. But but God wanted to deliver them from their sins and their unbelief. So that's why he came himself, because he has been sending man, he has been coming through men and all that. Still, they did not believe. So God came down by himself to teach about his love so that they could be saved and come to him.